This is a special report from ABC News Digital.
Good morning. I'm Ty Hernandez in New York with an ABC News Digital special report. Big changes at Microsoft as the big man, Steve Ballmer, announced he will be resigning in the next 12 months. Joining us live with more on this is Yahoo Finance's Mike Santoli. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Sure thing.
So Ballmer was responsible for Xbox, Bing, and he also purchased Skype. But those are the highlights. Really, for months, people have been calling for his resignation. Where did he go wrong?
Well, I think the company in general, if you think about when he took over, January of 2000 was almost the exact peak of the technology bubble of the 90s, which Microsoft was, one of the leaders and basically had a quasi-monopoly in its main business. When you have a company like that Ballmer was overseeing to try to figure out what the next wave was going to be, he just didn't quite succeed. They didn't capture really the whole market in search or in mobile or in tablets. So a lot of the hardware innovations that came about during his tenure obviously did not come out of Microsoft. Interestingly, he just initiated a big revamping of the company to actually more orient it toward hardware, but he's not going to be the one to follow that through.
Still, it's a company that makes a lot of money and still has a lot of money.
Certainly does. No, it's billions and billions of cash flow every year. It's still one of the most valuable companies in the world. It's not a matter of it being a failing company, but there was a sense that under Ballmer, it didn't have a real clear strategic vision for what was going to be next. It was still tethered largely to the PC economy as opposed to mobile and other areas. Its tablet was not necessarily a hit, to say the least. So I do think that there's a lot to work with at Microsoft. A lot of people, when they say they wanted Ballmer out, what they really wanted is maybe a rationalization of the company to even break up into pieces at this point.
So let's talk about those pieces. What would happen? What do they want to separate out?
Well, it's not entirely clear, but certainly Xbox as a business is not fully reflected in Microsoft's value in the stock market. So it would be kind of a split between maybe software, hardware. You could separate out, MSN search and all those other areas that are ad dependent. So it's not clear or obvious why you would have to do that, except to think that the market would value the individual pieces more than they currently are valued as a whole company.
So in doing my research on Ballmer, I read some pretty scathing articles about him. Were the calls for his resignation louder than most?
Well, they were loud because of the prominence of the company and because a lot of people in the technology industry are very passionate about, which companies are innovating well, which ones aren't. He also had this cast to him. He's 57 years old now, so clearly it's not a no-brainer that he retire right now, but he's been in the job a long time. 13 years is a very long time to run a huge company like that, and a sense that he was sort of rooted in the prior generation that built Microsoft, along with Bill Gates, as opposed to somebody who was more forward-looking. Also, on a personal level, people, didn't necessarily find him warm and cuddly.
All right. He released a statement to his employees about his resignation. I'm going to read it now. It doesn't sound like he was too thrilled to go. Here it goes. This is an emotional and difficult thing for me to do. I take this step in the best interests of the company I love. It is the thing outside of my family and closest friends that matters to me most. But at the same time, he's recognizing perhaps that it is time. He's been given, 12 months until a replacement is found?
Well, at least, at most 12 months. So what he's essentially saying is as soon as the board finds a successor as CEO, he will retire. So the 12 months is just kind of at the outside, if it possibly could take that long. I actually think it'll be much, much less than 12 months. And yes, it does seem like there's some ambivalence or reluctance attached to it. Not too surprising, but I don't really at all see it as the board dismissing him or anything like that.
It was interesting in reading on his history. He was one of the first to work with Gates in the company, and he's someone who'd been around since the beginning. But they seem to suggest that Ballmer really rewarded loyalty to sort of the entrenched ideas rather than innovation.
Yeah. No, that is definitely the knock on him, but it's hard for me to say whether that was him personally that basically imposed that sense, or whether it's the natural outgrowth of being a company that's incredibly dominant in one area. So that every new idea that comes along, you worry about, well, is it going to cannibalize our existing business? It's very hard for big companies that have huge market share to be the ones to innovate for the next step.
So how about the Microsoft stock? It seems like the markets are responding well to this news.
Yeah. Well, they are. They clearly think that not only Ballmer leaving and a new CEO coming in could be a catalyst for some kind of a corporate restructuring, but just a general, raise the metabolism level at Microsoft. It's always been, a very inexpensive stock, or always for the last several years, very inexpensive stock based on how much money they earn today. The question has always been, can they sustain it and actually make it a growth story again? And so the market is essentially saying maybe it's more likely under somebody else. By the way, Ballmer himself owns more than 300 million Microsoft shares. So at some point this morning, he had an additional close to $1 billion net worth.
It's kind of a good news, bad news thing.
That's right.
All right, Mike Santoli from Yahoo Finance, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to bring in ABC's technology editor, Joanna Stearns, who's been working this story all morning. Joanna, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here.
All right, so he's on his way out. Someone else will be on their way in. Do we know who that person might be or what their background is going to be?
That's the big question now. Who comes next, right? Who comes after Ballmer, who's been in this position for quite a few years, obviously following Bill Gates, who is a very notable leader and who really led the company. And, the question is it going to be someone from within or is it going to be someone from without? And so they are obviously going to start conducting a search for this. That's going to be headed up by the board. And when you think about who might come from within, there are a couple of names that come to mind, though this does come after a couple of really high-profile executives have left. So back right after Windows 8 launched, which was a big launch in October, in November, the head of Windows 8, Steven Sinofsky, actually exited. And there were a lot of talk, and my sources say a lot that, they just did not get along, and Ballmer did not feel like he was the right person to lead the Windows platform. And so stepping in for him was a woman named Julie Larson Green, and she has now taken over in a big restructuring of the company, a division that really focuses on the devices. And so she's really now heading up the devices, everything from their Surface tablet to the Xbox. Another name that comes to mind is Terry Myerson. He is now heading up the operating systems. He oversees Windows, the Windows Phone, across all of those platforms. So those are two names from within. But of course, they might take this search broader and look at people within this industry. And that might be something that Microsoft might need. They might need that fresh idea, someone coming from another company, seeing this whole industry from afar and seeing where Microsoft can really play.
Do you think that devices is going to be the focus, the number one focus in terms of their choice for a new leader in the company? Their tablet didn't do well, their foray into phones and ebooks didn't succeed. Is that really what they want to do?
I think that's one major component. Where you look at the race right now in the tech industry, it's which company is going to do devices well, but who's really going to do it across the devices well? Who's going to play really well with phones and then have that experience sync well with your tablet, with your laptop, and then with the TV? The TV is a big next market for Microsoft, with Xbox coming out, the new Xbox One coming out this fall. They haven't said the exact date, but it's going to come out this fall for the holiday season. So I think that the next push, and whoever this leader is, has to see that across all of these platforms, has to be a real leader in seeing the synergy between all of these. And Ballmer's actually taken steps in that regard. One of the things he did a couple of months ago in the beginning of the summer was completely reorganize the company to get all of their products to work better together. So they have now all of the Xbox team really working with the Windows team, or at least that's what we're hearing from reports. Though that's something that was a really big problem. And one of the problems that has held Microsoft back is that just the company wasn't talking to each other. The Windows division wasn't talking to the Xbox division. And so how are you going to have a tablet that plays well with your TV if those people within the company, this massive company, aren't communicating well?
Is the perception that Apple may be in a slump something that Microsoft may try to move in and take advantage of now?
I think, in the technology industry, we're always really quick to want to say someone's, in and someone's out. And especially between Apple and Microsoft, how long has that war been going on, right? We've got the Mac, we've got the PC. It's always a really fun thing to look at. I think we're in a transition period in the industry right now. We've seen a lot of buzz around smartphones and tablets. That's still a very important market. But I think a lot of these big companies are looking to the next big thing. And I wouldn't count out other players, too. I'd look at Amazon as a really big player that's coming in. Obviously, Apple, we look beyond that. We look at some of the social networks. We look at Facebook, at what they're trying to do, really in a way on an operating system side. So all of these companies are really coming into play right now into figuring out how are we going to get a better ecosystem of products.
All right, Joanna Stern, thank you so much for joining us and help us put it all in perspective. And again, our thanks to Mike Santoli at Yahoo Finance. This has been an ABC News Digital Special Report. I'm Ty Hernandez in New York.
This has been a special report from ABC News Digital.